Folks, we'll be starting in about 5 minutes.
Someone instead of Liz from You guys, once we get going, like last time, if folks want to stand up, that would be great. And if you don't, that's also fine. But we would encourage you to do so. Power in standing. And there's also a couple of seats if anybody wants those.
I don't bite.
What's that?
I don't bite.
Ben doesn't bite.
Nobody wants to sit next to that.
That's not what I was.
We could actually.
No guarantees about the rest of us.
Get a little feisty, but I don't bite.
Maybe they are. I think that's what you're saying. Why they want to stay there.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for coming today. Before we get going, we'd like to take a moment of silence as we approach the 2-year anniversary to remember the 18 lives that were lost on October 25th, 2023, and the countless other families and survivors who were affected by this terrible tragedy. If you join me just in a brief moment of silence, please. Thank you. I'd like to first begin by thanking and welcoming all of our clients who came out today to show their support for this important next step that we're taking. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Travis Brennan. I'm an attorney at Berman & Simmons in Lewiston, Maine, and I'm joined by the other members of the legal team, which comprises 4 firms, 2 firms here in Maine, Berman & Simmons and Gideon Asen, and 2 firms, 2 national firms, National Trial Law in Texas and Koskoff in Connecticut. I'm joined to my right by attorney Benjamin Gideon. Attorney Benjamin Gideon, who's an attorney at Gideon Asen in Auburn. Also to my right is attorney Matt Blumenthal and Margaret Donovan, who are attorneys at the Koskoff Law Firm in Connecticut. And last but certainly not least to my left is attorney Jamal Al-Safar, who's an attorney at National Trial Law in Texas. I'm now going to turn it over to Ben to begin the remarks. I'll have some remarks after that, and then we have a few clients who will be making some statements as well. Thank you.
So as Travis mentioned, my name's Ben Gideon. I'm the owner and founder of Gideon Asen, a law firm right across the river in Auburn, Maine. When I think back almost 2 years ago now to October 25th of 2023, my first memory of that day is a positive one. I remember taking my daughter, who was 16 at the time, to take her driver's test at the DMV in Topsom, Maine. And I remember watching her get into that car with the test evaluator and worried that she would fail her driver's test. Actually worried beyond that she might pass her driver's test and then be sharing the public roads with us in the state of Maine. My next memory from October 25 of 23 was seeing a post from the Androscoggin County Sheriff's Department, which read, "We're currently investigating 2 active shooter events. Shooter remains at large. Lock down local businesses." And my first concern was for all of the people that worked at my own firm in Auburn and wondering if everyone was going to be okay. And then I worried about my own friends and my own family here in the state of Maine. October 25 of 2023, for those of us who live in Maine, is a day that we will never forget. It's one of those days that when you look back on it, you can remember where you were and what you were doing when you first learned that the epic of mass shootings had finally visited our small and sleepy state of Maine. And it's a day where we put our divisions aside and we cared only about protecting our community and our loved ones. And for most of us, including most of us here in this room, in the media who live here, we eventually were able to breathe a sigh of relief that all of the people we knew and loved were going to be okay. That's not true of any of the people who are standing behind me. And it's not true of our 100 clients who we represent in this case. For them, October 25 of 2023 will always bring the memories of going to play cornhole or shoot pool at a local bar, or to go bowling with their family and friends at a local recreation center, and having bullets rain down on them and watch as their friends and their family members were shot, or they were shot themselves. Worse still, others were at home and had to wait hours before learning that their husband or their son or their best friend would never be coming home. But what none of our clients knew that day was that for more than 5 months, the Army knew that Robert Card, the shooter, was suffering from severe mental health crises and had violent ideations. What none of our clients knew at that time was that 4 months earlier, the U.S. Army became aware that Robert Card was homicidal, that he had a hit list, and that he was targeting the cornhole group and the bowling leagues that he had frequented. What our clients didn't know at that time was that 3.5 months before the shooting, the U.S. Army allowed Sergeant Card to be discharged from a psychiatric facility on the condition that the Army remove his weapons, and the Army violated that condition. And finally, what none of our clients knew at that time was that just 6 weeks before this tragedy, Sergeant Card's fellow Army reservist and his best friend reached out to the Army and told them that Sergeant Card was going to snap and commit a mass shooting. So this morning, on behalf of all of our clients, we filed a lawsuit against the United States Army in the United States District Court for the District of Maine. Our lawsuit details all of the ways in which the Army failed to act on all of this knowledge and information and failed to protect the public and this community. Our lawsuit details the decades over which the Army became aware that service members with mental illness posed unique risks to the public and enacted specific policies and procedures to address those very risks. And our lawsuit details how the Army repeatedly violated its own policies and its own procedures. Now, we were standing here before you more than 6 months ago, announcing that we had just served our notice of claim on the Army, notifying them that we were going to pursue this claim. And as you may know, by law, the Army had 6 months to review and evaluate the claims and to respond. At that time, we hoped that the Army might take responsibility for failing to act on all of that information and failing to protect this community. At that time, we hoped that the Army might accept some semblance of accountability for violating its own policies and its own procedures. But since we served our notice, we have heard nothing. Not a single thing, just silence. So we have no choice but to file this lawsuit on behalf of our clients to hopefully, finally, after almost 2 years, gain some semblance of closure and justice for them and their families, and to provide some measure of accountability.
The evidence that we've gathered in the wake of this tragedy is disturbing. The facts show that despite every possible warning sign raised by CARD's behavior, the Army failed at every turn to act. The Army failed to act when it learned that CARD had become delusional and was hearing voices. It failed to act when it learned that CARD had a hit list. It failed to act when it learned that CARD had threatened to commit a mass shooting. Blatant warning sign after blatant warning sign provided opportunity after opportunity for the Army to act and address CARD's unfolding mental health crisis. Shockingly, the Army repeatedly broke its promises to protect the community it pledges to defend. It broke its promises to CARD's family, it broke its promises to CARD's doctors, and it broke its promises to CARD's good friend and fellow reservist. The Army broke its promises to act. And on the few occasions that the Army did act, the Army acted unreasonably and negligently. They acted unreasonably and negligently in withholding critical information from local law enforcement just months before this tragedy. They acted unreasonably and negligently in failing to address the warning signs. They acted unreasonably and negligently in failing to follow its own internal policies, procedures, and protocols to address these exact type of warning signs. And it acted unreasonably and negligently in failing to report important information up the chain of command. As a result of these broken promises, hundreds of lives were shattered and a state was shaken and changed forever. For nearly 2 years now, the families and victims have heard silence from the Army, as they have all carried with them their grief, their physical and psychological scars, without any closure. For them, this is a nightmare that does not end. The families and the victims deserve answers and accountability. They deserve resolution and peace. The fact remains that the Army allowed an unstable, mentally ill service member to walk out into the community without any warning, without any protocols, without any plan to keep our community safe. Without accountability, what hope do we have of preventing another tragedy like this from occurring? I now would like to welcome Cynthia to come up and make some remarks. Thank you.
I'm Cynthia Young. We're all standing here today because on October 25th, 2023, we lost something precious. Some of us lost our loved ones. Some of us have lost the ability to feel safe or secure. But one thing we all lost was our trust in those who are responsible. As a wife and mother, losing both my husband and my child in a tragedy that never should have happened is a pain beyond words. We trusted those in power to protect our loved ones, and their inaction cost us everything. No family should have to endure this heartache when so many signs were ignored. It's been almost 2 years without Bill and Aaron. That's 2 Christmases, 2 anniversaries, 2 birthdays. My son would have turned 16 last month. I'll never see him graduate. I'll never see him get his driver's license. I'll never see him go to college or start a family of his own. I'm devastated, and I still cry almost every day. Aaron's friends still come to see me, and we talk about how Aaron loved bowling, golf, playing pool, and fast cars. We talk about how he always packed extra snacks to bring his friends, just in case they didn't have one. We talk about how he always helped his friend who's blind to find the correct bus home at the end of the day. Aaron was a kind and gentle giant that took after his father, who was also Aaron's hero. It's not fair that their lives were cut so short. They both had so much to still give this world, and in a moment they were gone. Today, our group takes its next steps towards justice for our loved ones. We want to heal, but we will never be whole. It's time to hold those who are responsible accountable for those actions. And we all hope that these steps will help prevent tragedies such as this from ever happening again.
Thank you, Cynthia. I now would like to welcome Steve Richards Kretlow. And his wife, Heather, may be up here as well.
Hello. I'm Steve, and I'm one of the survivors and injured from Schmenge's Bar and Grill. Myself, along with the other people who stand behind me, we feel that it's important that we're moving forward to file a complaint with hopes to get responsibility for what happened that night on October 25th, 2023. That night, my life changed forever. The night before, I went to the bar. I was having dinner with my wife and my kids. I gave them hugs and kisses and big I love yous, and I drove to Lewiston to meet up with my deaf friends to play cornhole. An hour later, the shootings inside the bar. My left leg got hit by a speeding bullet. It took 6 months for my leg to heal. I never thought it could happen in Lewiston, Maine. All I wanted to do was have fun with my friends, playing cornhole, hanging out with them, talking with them, sharing jokes and some laughter. The shooter took my friends and our loved ones away from us. It was heartbreaking to see some of my friends who did not come out alive. There were many steps and actions that could have been taken to prevent this from happening. If this was stopped months ago, long before October 25th, then all of our loved ones and our friends would still be here with us today. This pain and this trauma never goes away. And we miss our friends and the loss of 18 lives daily. It's hard being part of Maine's first mass shooting, knowing that it has affected our community, our deaf community, and the whole town of Lewiston, Maine. I have myself a scar on my left leg, and it is a daily reminder that I'm a survivor. We're not going to forget, and will always honor our 18 hearts, staying stronger together to honor the victims, the families, and the survivors who have experienced the tragedy on October 25th, 23.
Thank you, Steve. I'd now like to welcome Ben Dyer up to make some remarks.
I feel kind of awkward because everyone wrote their stuff down. My name's Ben Dyer, and as you guys call it, a victim, I'm a survivor. I was shot 5 times. We've heard the word responsibility, accountability. I know who was responsible for the act. I looked him in the face when he took my finger. He shot me in the arm. I'll never forget it. I wake up every day to knowing that I'm not the same person I was that morning. I go to bed every night. Pain, nerve pain. I've lost nerves in my arm, lost use of my arm. I know who's responsible, but us as a group, our legal team, our 100 people, we want the accountability. That's what this is about. Holding those accountable for what happened that night. And hopefully to help make change towards the mental health system and everything else, because we know this is where this stems from. I wasn't a big proponent of therapy or anything, but I'll tell you what, I go regularly, and I have since this incident because it's something that was available to me, and it's helped me be able to cope with every day. Took me 18 months from the time of that shooting to go back to work. And it wasn't because mentally I couldn't do it, because my mind still works wonderfully. But physically, my body wouldn't allow me to do it. Because not only do you see the loss of the finger, the arm, my hand doesn't work. I was also shot through the legs. I still have a partial bullet in my right leg. It's kind of fun to play with, and it's because it sits so close to the top of the skin. I've been told I can have it taken out. I choose not to because it's a memory that says I'm still a survivor. This is what's happened to me that night. But this group, I'm going to say it. I woke up this morning to seeing the social media posts from websites, from different news groups, and a lot of people that were on there that have no idea what this is about. We're like, oh, it's a money grab. It's all about money. This has nothing to do with money for us. I don't care how much money there is. I'll never get my hand back. I'll never get my arm back. These people will never get their loved ones back. Money is not going to cure anything. But we're here as a group, a strong group, a supportive group, because as you see, some of us wearing the same shirts, we still spend time together. We still support each other. I know the bowling community does the same thing. We are a strong group. No, we're a strong family. And we're all here to support each other throughout this process. And the legal team behind me worked countless hours for us to get the accountability we're looking for. And I hope with this being done and them serving that paperwork today, that we might, or we will get our accountability and we'll find out where it went wrong, why it went wrong, and hopefully fix that system going forward so other people don't live like we do every day, hoping for our loved ones back. Being able to stand in front of people like you and talk about what's happened to us. No one should ever have to do this. No one. I have little kids. I know a lot of people here too. I had to piecemeal my life back together with my little kids to let them see me piece by piece as bandages came off to realize Dad's not the same. Physically, I'm not. Mentally, yep, I still have my issues, but some of it's made me stronger. But again, we want the accountability. This lawsuit hopefully will get us what we want, and this law team is phenomenal. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. We now want to open it up for questions from any members of the media.
I was wondering, Trevor, does that make you, upset that you said 6 months went by and you've heard nothing from the U.S. Army? Your reaction to that is what?
I mean, I think the people that stand here behind us, for them, it's incredibly hurtful. It just adds salt to the wound in terms of everything that they're dealing with to have no response. Silence speaks loudly.
Have you heard from the President of the United States or the Department of Defense saying, before you file this, what can we do for you?
To date, we haven't heard any response from anyone in response to the notice that we provided last October.
So seeing the pain and the suffering behind you, what is your message to the President of the United States, who is probably seeing this just like everyone else today?
My message to the president is that bullets don't choose sides, bullets don't have party affiliations, bullets shouldn't care about where you stand politically, but human beings need help, and there's human beings here that would benefit from his help and the government's help. The government was a big factor in why this happened, and they should step up and take responsibility for it.
It's no secret. I mean, we represent a group that's over 100 clients, and our clients come from all different communities within Maine, have all different political views, and come from all different backgrounds. But one thing that unifies this group is a strong belief that this event, this tragedy, never should have happened because it was entirely preventable.
Are you able to kind of talk about what's the next steps now that it's been filed? What is next?
So the next step is there'll be service on the Army and the government, so they will get the complaint formally served, and then they have a time frame within which to respond to that. And they can answer it, or they can file legal oppositions to it that will require judges to make decisions about next steps.
Have you put a price tag on the pain and the suffering that these people have endured over the past 2 years? And if so, what amount of money would you be looking to recover from the government?
I think it's very premature to start talking about amounts of money because to date the offer has been zero. That's easy to respond to, and if there was meaningful discussions on that, we would have to enter into thinking about case values and things like that, but that's quite premature at this stage.
Your focus is on the Army, but is there any blame on local law enforcement at the Saginaw County Sheriff's Office?
I think one of the things that has become clear as we've gathered information and as is outlined in the complaint is that the local law enforcement was put in a very difficult position because the Army had so much knowledge and didn't share that knowledge with local law enforcement. And we believe that had that knowledge been shared, the fact that Card's doctors wanted him separated from his guns, that was not communicated to local law enforcement. If it had, we believe that would have changed the events entirely in terms of what unfolded from there.
Is there any concern that the Army might say they're immune from prosecution, so they're immune from this lawsuit because they're the federal government?
I mean, the law is clear on that there are immunities and protections that they are afforded that go beyond other types of private litigants, but we believe that this case would not fall into any of those immunities, and therefore they would not be immune from this claim, no.
What will accountability look like given that there have been successful lawsuits similar to this against the federal government?
I think accountability in this case is an acknowledgement that there were mistakes that were made, and there are concrete steps that are taken to provide proper training on the existing policies and procedures that exist within the Army, or to implement new policies and procedures to prevent this from happening. Because the fact of the matter remains is there was every possible warning sign that was exhibited by Robert Card in the months leading up to this tragedy. And if this tragedy can't be prevented, then it's hard to imagine how you could prevent another tragedy like this from occurring.
What should justice look like for these survivors and the families of the victims going forward?
I don't want to, we have 109 clients, and I think justice might look different for different clients, and just as their grieving process is different for everyone.
In the most basic terms, are you saying today the Army screwed up?
Yes.
Yes.
Travis, what does it mean, Ben, that all 18 families that lost someone in the attack are united in this effort, as well as it seems like everyone else who suffered wounds from gunfire? What does that say about this effort?
I mean, I think it speaks to the close-knit nature of this Lewiston, Maine community, and to the friendships and the support that's already been alluded to by a lot of our clients that they've developed in going through this process together. As you know, it's hard to get 18 people to agree on anything these days, and it means a lot, I think, to everyone in the group that they're all going shoulder to shoulder here. They're all there for each other. They're there to support each other and to protect each other, and they're going to see this through together. So I think that means a lot. Certainly, as of the legal team, it's a wonderful experience to represent a unified group of people that share a common interest. So.
In the 6 months since you first gave notice, the 100-plus page chronology in your filing, the Army had a detailed report, the Lewiston Commission had a detailed report. Is it possible for you to help us tease out what new facts you may have learned among what you say are the many mistakes, negligence, what you've learned in the last 6 months since we were last gathered here?
I mean, I think what we've been focused on is less new facts and more understanding the procedural and regulatory framework within which the Army works, and all of the different policies and orders and regulations that they were supposed to have been following that they didn't, some of which had been reported on, and many of those things have not been reported on, and they're all detailed in excruciating detail in the 120-page legal filing that we filed. I also think one of the new developments that you will find in reading our complaint is understanding this case in the context of a long history of the Army understanding the impact of mental illness, soldier mental illness, and risks to the fellow soldiers and the general public, in addition to exposure to blasts and brain injuries. Our complaint details more than a dozen other mass violence events committed by current and former service members, and the whole system designed to identify these problems and to address them comes out of that history. This isn't the first time this has happened. So I think a lot of that is new in the documents that we filed this morning with the court.
One thing that's striking is that if you look at Card's service, he had very early hearing loss. He was exposed repeatedly to blasts. The Army is aware that repeated exposure to blasts can cause mental health issues. And what did we see here? We saw a relatively young service member who had a very good record quickly deteriorate and display every conceivable warning sign that they were having a mental health crisis. And during that entire time period, the Army could have intervened and acted to prevent this tragedy, but failed to do so.
So are you more hopeful today with the lawsuit that the silence from the U.S. Army will end now, or are you more frustrated?
Now that the complaint is filed, the government will have to answer the complaint. And everyone, this team, our clients, we're moving forward, and the government will have to respond.
How long do they have to respond to that?
They have 60 days to file an answer.
Are you still working with our congressional delegation and pushing for them to make changes at the national level as well?
I'd say, coming back to a question earlier and adding to that, in terms of the unity here, our clients are unified. The congressional delegation has provided unified support for this group. They met with us early on in the process and were really helpful in helping us to get access to information related to many of the failures that occurred here. And we expect that they will continue to provide support as we continue forward.
You're not suing anyone in law enforcement, the Saginaw County Sheriff, which didn't implement the yellow flag law. We all know that. We also know that the law's been used 1,000 times since this horrible tragedy. And 2 months from now, Maine voters are going to be asked to vote on an alternative or an additional red flag law, which would bypass the law enforcement rule. I wonder if you or any of the family members assembled here might want to weigh in on that. I know that's not exactly the topic of this news conference, but it's a highly relevant issue.
I mean, I would just say that whatever can eliminate administrative or procedural burdens to separating folks who have severe mental illness from the weapons they're going to use to carry out mass violence would be a positive step forward. I think we generally would endorse that. Yeah, I think that would be progress from our standpoint.
I think there's always a question about how one goes about implementing something. But here, I don't think there's any dispute that Robert Card was someone who was experiencing a mental health crisis. He had made overt threats. He had a hit list. And this is someone that I think everyone can agree should not have had access to the guns that he did. We'll take another question or two and then wrap it up.
Are there any specific outcomes that have resulted from litigation and some of the other tragedies you mentioned? Sutherland Springs comes to mind for me, that you hope might be possible in this case?
Well, as it turns out, we have an attorney here who litigated the Sutherland Springs case, so we'll let him answer or speak to that.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I had the honor of being the lead counsel on the Sutherland Springs case against the federal government, and eerily similar to what happened here, although what happened here in Maine I think was even worse in terms of the federal government dropping the ball. But as a result of that case, and as a result of and I think this is really important, the bravery and courage of these families and the bravery and courage of my clients in Sutherland Springs coming forward and making sure that we hold these folks accountable makes a huge difference. In that case in Sutherland Springs, we were able to make national change. We were able to force the military, all the military departments in the federal government to pay attention to the requirements of the FBI background check system, to upgrade their systems, to put criminals back into the background check system that they had missed for 30 years. Remember, in Sutherland Springs for 30 years, the military was ignoring their responsibility and duties to report dangerous people to the background check system. And we're seeing something similar in this case as well. And we hope that one of those effects will be to ensure that the Army and all the military departments understand what their obligations are, and not just understand it, but really the most important part is following through on those obligations. We were able to do that in that other case, and we hope we'll be able to do that here too.
Take one more question.
All right, we'll wrap it up. And if
Thank you
anyone
all.
has follow-up questions, please let us know. But thank you for coming today.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
There's an exit over here too if people want to go that way.